Good evening from the Standard Group Center. Many thanks for joining us on the broadcast this Wednesday night, the 3rd day of May 2017, a day journalists across the world mark the World Press Freedom Day, a day that the profession faces an uncertain future. Here in the country, a critical time for the profession as the country prepares for its biggest election yet tonight, 96 days to this year's general election. Many thanks for joining us on the broadcast tonight.
Indeed, many thanks for having made time to be with us tonight. The political landscape, Ben, continues to change. A lot is happening, and we have all the updates for you. My name is Sophia Wanuna. Let's begin with Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka is now linking Deputy President William Ruto to the freezing of accounts and suspension of operations of the Kalonzo Musyoka Foundation.
Terming it as political persecution, the NASA presidential running mate says the move is aimed at tarnishing his family.
But Deputy President William Ruto has dismissed the claim, saying he understands Kalonzo's political frustrations and he should respond to specific questions and stop looking for scapegoats.
5 days after being named the NASA presidential running mate, and Kalonzo Musyoka is dealing with a different kind of headache after the Non-Governmental Organizations Coordination Board froze his foundation's bank accounts and suspended its operations.
That is literally called hitting below the belt.
A move that saw Kalonzo Musyoka introduce his son Kennedy, the secretary of the foundation, which has been in operation for over a decade. It is accused of failing to account for 196 million shillings from donors.
We have not been served with any court order. You cannot freeze accounts without a court order. That's a fact. But you're not going to take this lying down. We will fight.
In a letter dated the 10th of last month, the board, which cited among other things certified bank statements, states that the Kalonzo Musyoka Foundation is now compliant with the NGOs Coordination Act 1990, the attendant regulations, and terms and conditions of registration.
What has happened between 10th of April and May, is it the 2nd? Yesterday. Second, yes, 2nd of May. Yesterday. Then you can now see the mischief.
He says it is all politically instigated.
Victimization, political persecution, and even threatening to charge me. I want them to come and arrest me now.
Kalonzo is exonerating President Uhuru Kenyatta, but is pointing fingers at his deputy.
We know the people who are driven by vendetta. He is number 2 and his people, vendetta. And we'll deal with them, vendetta people.
But in a statement, Deputy President William Ruto's spokesman David Mugonyi said, "We understand Kalonzo Musyoka's political frustrations, but he should leave the Deputy President out of it. The Deputy President is too busy to waste time on such things. He should respond to specific questions and stop looking for scapegoats."
Mimi sio mtu wa kutishwa. Mimi sitingiziki. Nikichukua msimamo, nichukua msimamo.
The timing of the move coming just 23 days after the foundation was given a clean bill by the NGO Coordination Board is what is raising eyebrows. And being the second foundation of a NASA politician after that of Evans Kidero to be put on the spot, to many, it is more than just about finances. Rita Tinina, KTN News.
And that story forms the basis of our big question tonight. We are asking, do you agree with the Deputy President that Kalonzo Musyoka is merely looking for a scapegoat?
Tell us what you think. Text us your yes or no opinion, plus a brief comment to our studio line, 22155. Join this conversation on Twitter. It is Political Times. Twitter at Ben_Kitili, at Sophia Wanuna, at KTN News, at KTN Kenya. The hashtag is KTN Prime. We shall be sampling some of those tweets as well as text during this live newscast.
All right, and I'd love to hear from you, so keep them coming. Now to some city politics, and popular musician Charles Njagwa Kanyi alias Jaguar will now fly the Jubilee flag in Starehe constituency during the August elections. The Jubilee Party Appeals Tribunal overturned the victory of incumbent MP Maina Kamanda, citing what it calls massive misconduct in the final tally. Here's Murimi Mwangi with that report.
The carnival of song, dance and jubilation at the Jubilee Party headquarters in Pangani. following this verdict awaited for 5 days by supporters of popular musician Charles Njagua Kanyi, alias Jaguar.
Charles Njagua Kanyi as the winner and candidate of Jubilee Party, Member of Parliament Starehe constituency, Nairobi County.
Lakini nataka kuambia watu wa Starehe na nataka kuwashukuru sana kwa sababu they have stood by me, they have spent sleepless nights na God amekuwa side yetu kwa sababu niliwaambia if you win fair and square, Mheshimiwa Kamanda hatachukua certificate. Yaani amepatana na mtu mbaya.
The Jubilee Party National Elections Tribunal ruled there had been massive alterations of the Starehe final tally in favor of current MP Maina Kamanda, an illegality which the tribunal found had stolen Jaguar's victory even after winning in 25 out of 35 polling stations.
Watu walikuwa wananiambia we might not come vote for you because we know utanyang'anywa certificate. And every day nikiamka mapema I had to go convince people Jubilee iko fair na sitanyang'anywa certificate na Maina Kamanda.
The Jubilee Tribunal is rushing against time to clear the over 500 appeals by Friday to unlock the issuance of nomination certificates to all party aspirants before their public unveiling by party leader President Uhuru Kenyatta on Saturday. Key appeals still pending include that of Nakuru Governor Kinuthia Mbugua, challenging the victory of former NTSA Chairman Lee Kinyanjui. Kamukunji MP Yusuf Hassan is also challenging the victory of Simon Mbugua in the constituency Jubilee primaries.
No certificate has been issued to any party by the Jubilee National Elections Board.
At the office of the Registrar of Political Parties, hundreds of aspirants seeking to vie as independent candidates in the August elections continued resigning from the main political parties. There's barely 24 hours to the Thursday deadline, when all independent candidates are expected to present all their papers to the country's electoral body, IEBC.
It was not my intention to be independent candidate, but the party was not in a position to carry effective election on the grassroots. The election was marred with the leaguing, cooking of figures.
With 2 days to the tribunal's self-imposed Friday deadline, such noises will no doubt remain a familiar sound at the Jubilee Party headquarters as the hearings continue. Muremi Mwangi, KTN News in Nairobi.
From politics, Kenyans today joined the world in marking the World Press Freedom Day during a convention organized by the Media Council of Kenya. Participants discussed the issue of safety of journalists while on duty.
This is just one of the examples of harassments that journalists face in the line of duty. And according to Linus Kaikai, the chairman of the Editors Guild, some of such incidences are inflicted upon media practitioners by those in the security forces. It is an issue that arose during a convention organized by the Media Council of Kenya to mark the World Press Freedom Day.
I mentioned Isaiah Gwendi of the Standard Group, who was beaten by administration policemen in CIR just over a month ago. Cameraman Bill Otieno of the National Media Group, who was beaten by police and his camera destroyed in Voi early in March. A total of 5 journalists have been victims of this physical violence in only 4 months of this year, 2017.
In his speech during the convention, Linus Kaikai noted that most of the cases of physical violence meted on journalists are related to coverage of political issues.
We are awaiting updates from the security services on the case of Moses Masinde of K24, who was on the 20th July last year beaten at an ODM rally in Budalangi and his camera destroyed. Lydia Nyawera of the Standard Group and Grace Gitao of the Nation Media Group, who were both beaten by Nyeri MCS while covering the county assembly in August last year.
Being a political ear, the issue of the safety of journalists might create a huge debate among related stakeholders. However, at the convention, CS Joe Musheru and Linus Kaikai did not hesitate in urging journalists to maintain the elements of fairness in their reporting. This to avoid a similar occurrence of the most regretted post-election violence of 2007-2008.
As a media fraternity in Kenya, we must work hard to stay true to the maxim of our calling, the service of public interest.
It should not always be cases of conflict and desperation as if nothing good comes from the state. Hard-working business communities and patriotic citizens laboring day and night to make a difference in our societies and their families.
But despite the many issues arising, great strides have been made in the industry. In February this year, the High Court made a ruling that would guard and protect media freedom.
During this period, the media has also scored some victories. A declaration by the court that criminal libel is against the Constitution was a big burden lifted off our shoulders. We will encourage the next parliament to delete the relevant section of the Criminal Procedure Code. So the section remains, only that the court has declared that this section cannot be used. But we would be comfortable if we did not have it in the statute at all.
The law on defamation was termed as unnecessary by the court, citing that in a democratic society, such a law was a serious interference with the freedom of expression. It was a law that will serve the penalty of up to 2 years for those found guilty. At the moment, despite the many issues arising in the field of duty, the passion burning within the men and women behind the lens and with the pen and paper continues to light with a blaze. Raquel Muigai, KTN News.
Let's bring you back to our top story tonight, and we are focusing on the Kalonzo Musyoka Foundation. And Kalonzo Musyoka's woes, he has now linked Deputy President William Ruto to the suspension of his foundation and freezing of the foundation's accounts. Deputy President, on the other hand, says that Kalonzo Musyoka is just looking for a scapegoat. On our big question discussion tonight, we're asking you, do you agree with the Deputy President that Kalonzo Musyoka is looking for a scapegoat?
Indeed, keep your comments coming. Tweet us at KTN News, at KTN Kenya, at Ben_Kitili, at Sophia Wanuna. Would love to hear your thoughts on that big question tonight. All right, let's proceed. In other news tonight, a 34-year-old man is fighting for his life at the Rift Valley Provincial General Hospital after he was shot in the head by a police officer at Elbagon Town, Nakuru County. The police officer later turned the gun on himself, killing himself inside the pub. And here now is Victor Ogale with that story.
Samuel Osoro is fighting for his life at the Nakuru County Hospital after he was shot in the head following a disagreement with a police officer in Elbagon over a bill of 430 shillings. Osoro, the proprietor of the pub, had allegedly confiscated the mobile phone of the officer as security for the unpaid bill. The father of two told journalists that the police officer came to his bar and had several drinks for which he declined to pay. The officer is said to have left the bar and headed to the police station for a gun before returning with a rifle, shooting Osoro at close range. Both his eyes were damaged.
Hataki kulipa, akaniambia jaga simu, wacha simu ika hapo. Sasa nikafanya hivyo, nikajaga simu ikapaki hapo. Akaanza kudisist, anataka simu yake, nikamwambia simu mpaka ulete pesa ndio uchukue simu.
The survivor was rushed to Elbagon Health Center before being referred to the Nakuru Level 5 hospital where he has been admitted. According to the nurse in charge, Florence Ngoya, the bullet had fractured his skull on the forehead.
Though he has injuries, multiple injuries of the gunshots, so he's being attended to by the maxillofacial surgeons, and he also has to be reviewed by the ophthalmologist because the eye is already shattered out.
Ningependa sheria at least ijaribu kuniangazia.
Molo OCPD Daniel Kamanza said the officer was on duty on the fateful night and none of his colleagues suspected he was up to anything sinister. His body is lying at the Elbagon Hospital mortuary. Victor Gale, KTN News, Nakuru.
Kenyans are contending with the rising inflation as the prices of essential commodities remain on an all-time high. Here's our Dorcas Wangira putting this critical issue into perspective.
The experts say we have a problem. The cost of living in the country is rising. In just 1 month, the inflation rate has risen from 10.3% in March to 11.48% in April, according to the Kenyan National Bureau of Statistics. And those hardest hit are Kenyans at the margins, low-income earners and the unemployed. Irene Washera runs a food kiosk at Muthurwa Market. Business is slow. She isn't serving ugali, the staple meal, today. Instead, other cheaper alternatives like arrowroots will be served.
Sai hata ugali tumeshindwa kuuza, tunawausia. Hata chakula tumeshindwa, tutauza nini juu kama ukienda kwa viazi nayo bado imepada kabisa, maharagwe imepada, mahindi imepada, kila kitu imepada.
Ndio maana nimeamua kukula hii chakula 50. Ndio kwa hoteli kwingine inatoka 200. Hiyo siwezi kukula chakula 200 daily.
But Irene isn't the only one bearing the brunt of inflation. Kenyans have had to pay more for basic food and non-alcoholic drinks. Between March and April this year, prices went up by 3.55%. Food items such as sukuma wiki, spinach, maize flour, milk, potatoes, cabbages, onion and maize grain prices were high.
Wananchi wanazidi kuathirika, sio sisi wakaaji wa Kisumu tunazidi kuathirika sana.
Inatakana watembee kwa hizi maduka, waangalie vile watu wa duka wanauza vitu.
But are the rising prices of food alone enough to indicate the rising cost of living?
Most of the people in Kenya, they spend most of their income is actually on food. So if food increases, I'm talking about essential commodities. If these essential commodities increase, then their hit is heavily.
But how did we get here?
Right now, my friend, the reason the prices have also gone up to 150 is because as a country, we are experiencing severe drought. But as a government and as a responsible government, on recognizing that the prices also were reaching a place where it was difficult for the common wananchi also to be able to sustain, we intervened.
The KNBS report attributes the increase in food prices to the prevailing drought. Many Kenyans, however, have different sentiments.
Population iko juu sana. Alafu ukienda upande wa mazao mvua imekuwa kidogo. Sasa ndio hiyo bei lazima iende juu.
The chambers we have planted, now we have to replant again. Now what should be done? More trees should be planted.
Serikali anasema sukari iko, mambo ya sukari hapa Kenya ati hakuna, iko chini sababu ya mvua yenye hakuwa hapo awali.
Dr. Ngoro, who has observed economic trends for the last 5 years, maintains that the problem is much deeper.
It is true that one of the causes of this high cost of living is actually the drought. But you know, this drought has been coming, let's say in average, it has been coming every 5 years. But every Kenyan knows that there's a time of drought almost every year. So the problem is actually not the drought. The problem is effective food and the energy security programs in the country. But you know, we are in an election year, so a lot of money is being bumped the economy. And this money at one point will be more than the quantity of the goods and services we have in the country. There's a problem of productivity. So if productivity is not growing to give us more goods and services as money increases, then this increase in money to the economy will actually lead to higher inflationary pressures.
Online, Kenyans have not been shy to share their sentiments, going as far as posting the increasing prices of essential commodities such as milk, sugar and maize flour. This particular tweet draws a sharp contrast between the price of 2 kilograms of sugar in Somalia and Sudan at 65 shillings and 60 shillings, while in Kenya it is now retailing at 350 shillings. But is the situation really that bad?
Tuko watu wengi wanauza viazi, lakini siku hizi vile zimekosekana, watu wamepungua wale wanauza viazi.
Well, to understand just how high the cost of living has become, we'll have to go to around 3 or 4 stores to look at the most essential commodities and how much they cost exactly. We've been to 3 supermarkets on the extreme ends of town. Well, we couldn't find sugar in any of them. And in other supermarkets, there's just as much as 1 brand of maize flour. The KNBS average of sifted 2 kilograms of maize meal cost 135 shillings on average for various brands as at April 2017. In 2011, it cost 130 shillings, 10 shillings more than wheat flour. Now, it ranges from 130 shillings to 160 shillings depending on the brand. Households are stretched. But even with the government intervention to scrap 50% levy of maize imports from outside the EAC, prices are still high. A 90-kilogram bag of dry maize in Kisumu costs 5,200 shillings. In Mombasa, it costs 4,700 shillings, and in Nairobi, 4,500 shillings. In March, 500 milliliters of fresh milk retailed at between 42 shillings and 55 shillings depending on the brand. Now it is retailing at 49 shillings to 65 shillings. Long life milk costs between 70 shillings and upwards depending on the brand. The KNBS average price is 60 shillings. The cheapest brands of sugar were retailing at 140 per kilograms in March. Now an acute shortage looms. In some supermarkets, only one brand is left. There is a clamor for one thing. But does the government have enough muscle to adjust prices? Is it that simple? Is it wise?
If we are talking about the decrease in price of unga from 150 to what you had, it means we are coming up with price control. Price control, because this food is produced by producers. They have incurred costs. So you are going to make them, they are going to ask them to reduce the prices.
The drought phase has lapsed and you are experiencing heavy rainfall. Agronomists say it would take about 3 months to recover sustainable productivity. But as is, more Kenyans will have to dig deeper into their pockets, if only to survive. Dorcas Wangira, KTN News, Nairobi.
All right, let's recap for you our big question tonight. So Kalonzo Musyoka is blaming the Deputy President William Ruto for his woes in as far as the freezing of his accounts for the Kalonzo Musyoka Foundation are concerned. And we're asking you, do you agree with the DP that Musyoka is looking for a scapegoat?
At Mtuwetu on Twitter says, never had a pro-Jubilee NGO account frozen. They are in a utatuona mentality.
Mwani Adan is simply saying melon frozen.
Zalendo says on Twitter, yes, it's all about the 2022 politics, a systematic ploy to drive a wedge between Uhuru and Ruto.
Nicholas, every day they had an opportunity, they kept on calling on Waiguru names. They wanted the NYS stopped. They wanted her out of Kibra. She's out. But what are the things we are seeing them really do with this issue?
And as Poem Kenya says, nobody should be above the law.